Have you tried many posture corrective exercises without getting results that last? The problem is not you, the problem is corrective approach. And by the end of this video, you will learn how to retrain your movement patterns and improve your posture. If you haven't watched my last video, and please be sure to check it out. I'll put the link below. If you want to learn how to retrain your body and movement safely and then effectively and then feel better, and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell to be notified when I post a new video every week. Hi, I'm Taro Iwamoto. I am a Feldenkrais practitioner. With my background in athletic training, physical therapy, martial arts, and the Feldenkrais method, I have helped many people improve their posture and the movement. So now it is your turn. So why don't we start? Why doesn't a correction work? The body's natural reaction to force and then a correction is to resist. If somebody pushes you, and then you will automatically push back and push against that force. It's just the body's natural reaction, and it's a reflex. And when you force your body to move or forcefully trying to correct your movements, and then you are actually reinforcing your movement patterns. And this is why your body reverts back to your old patterns. As I said in the last video, posture is a reflection of years of your habitual movement patterns. If you want to retrain your movement patterns and improve your posture, first you have to know your own movement and posture bias. And I'll just make it very simple and make it two movement biases. And then the first one is, I call it full round posture. So this posture is you're sitting with the pelvis rolled backwards with the full round spine. Your low back, your middle back, and the upper back, and all rounded. And with your head, of course, going forward, right? Looking forward like that. So that's one of the hunchback posture category. And then the second one, similar to the first one, but I call half round posture. So you are actually sitting with the pelvis slightly tilted forward, which increases the arch in your low back. So the low back is arched, but the spine above, your thoracic spine, and then your upper spine, upper thoracic spine, is rounded. And then the head going forward. So the low back is arched in an extension, and then your thoracic spine is in flexion, and then with the hair forward head posture. So the difference between the first one and then the second one, the first one is posterior pelvic tilt, low back in flexion, middle back or the thoracic spine in flexion, and then the head going forward. The second one, anterior pelvic tilt with the extension in your low back, flexion in your thoracic spine, and forward head posture. So that's the difference. So if you're not quite sure, you can just sit and bring a mirror, and you can just check yourself and how the position of your spine, okay, low back, and then what's the shape of your spine. So it's, then you can figure out which one describes your posture more, which is your really movement patterns. So comment below which type you are. Are you a full round posture, or you are half round posture? So now let's get into how to retrain your movement patterns, and based on your movement bias, your habitual movement patterns, right? So for full round posture, this posture, and you want to train your movement into more of the global extension patterns, right? So you want to learn to move your pelvis into the forward directions, and then learn to move your spine and entire spine more or less into the extension directions, which is the non-habitual direction for you, the opposite of your habitual bias, except the head stays neutral, right? So So you're going to retrain your movement into the non-habitual directions. Anterior pelvic tilt, lumbar extension, thoracic extension with the head neutral. And so there are many exercises that train your movement patterns into these directions. One of the easy ones to do is in cat and cow pose. It's one of the yoga poses, and you probably know this one. You get on your all four, or on your hands and the knees. And then moving into the full round position is you're moving into your habitual movement patterns, right? So it should be easier for you, and it should be very familiar to you, because basically your body is moving into that direction more than going to the other direction. So that movement is much easier for you than going to the non-habitual directions. But it's still beneficial for you to practice and moving into your habitual directions and then moving out of the habitual directions, so that it's really retraining the movement patterns and then retraining your nervous system, because the nervous system is recognizing that's your habitual patterns and then that's the non-habitual patterns, so that you can actually start to retrain yourself out of that habitual patterns. Right? So moving into this way, the only thing that I'm going to do, change, is that instead of moving the head with the spine, and keep the head stable and without lifting your head up or lowering your head down. So keep your face and parallel to the floor the entire time as you're going through the cat and cow movement. So it looks like this. So as you're going to the full round posture in these directions, and then you should feel like, oh yeah, I do this movement all day long. And you should feel some strain, and then that is creating hunchback posture, round forward and round back shoulder, and forward head posture, that. And then now you're going to reverse that and keeping the head neutral, so you're not lifting your head up. Right? Arching and rounding, arching. So going through this movement, and the difference is that you're not making it corrective, and that's a very important distinction. As I said, and correction doesn't really work. Because you want to think about, you are re-informing yourself, your body, your nervous system, about the new movement patterns, so that non-habitual movement patterns starts to become more familiar to you. And then as it becomes more familiar to you, and then you can start to actually incorporate that movement, non-habitual movement patterns, into your daily movements and posture. All right? And that's just the one example. You can practice that cat and cow or similar movement patterns, but just so you know, non-habitual movement patterns, and for the round back or the full round posture is anterior pelvic tilt, lumbar extension, thoracic extension with the head neutral. All right, so let's and give you an example of the retraining exercise for half round posture. So in this case, your lower back, you know habitually how to move your pelvis into the anterior pelvic tilt directions. You know how to move your lower back into the extension well. But what you don't know, your body doesn't know well, is how to direct that force further up through the spine, into the thoracic spine. So how to extend your spine without overstressing your lower back, and that's the key thing, right? So you still want to train into the extension, except you want to minimize the amount of movement in your lower back. The way to do that is, just because this is the habitual movements for your body, and your body will find it's easier to move into the extension through the lower back, but it's not so easy through your thoracic spine. So one of the easy ones to do is you're going to sit on the floor and you're going to bend your legs and put your hands just below the knees, and then you're going to roll your pelvis forward and then trying to arch through the entire back. But because of the position, that limits the amount of the lumbar extension. But then instead, that is going to actually direct the movement and extension into the thoracic spine more. And when you do that, and most of the time, because it's so hard to move through the thoracic spine, it's a non-habitual movement. And then a lot of times, it skips that part. And then people will start to extend the head to compensate for that difficulty of the movement through the thoracic spine. So be aware of that, and then pay attention as you're going to retrain these movement patterns. Your head stays neutral, okay? Your head stays neutral. And then let go. And then going to just relax your back and round your back a little bit. Roll your pelvis forward, extension through the entire spine. But think about, you're getting a lot of extension through the thoracic spine, which should feel very difficult and stiff because you don't use it. Your body doesn't use it habitually, and that's why the area around the mid-thoracic spine is very stiff. All right, so become familiar with this sensation of directing the effort to the thoracic spine while keeping the head neutral. So this is the movement patterns that you want to train. There are other ways to do that, but I just want to give you one example and that you can practice that. And let me remind you again that 2 examples are just specific movement retraining based on your movement bias and based on your habitual movement patterns. And just for the simplicity, and 2 posture bias. One, full round posture, and the other one is the half round posture, the movement patterns. And based on which movement bias you have, and you're going to actually retrain your movement patterns. And so that you are learning to move into the non-habitual movement patterns. And it is not about correcting, okay? And the intention is very different. The way that you make this retraining, re-education versus correction is really, it is about your intention, and then you have to really understand that you are not trying to correct your posture, but you are really trying to learn to move in a non-habitual way, and then understanding, becoming familiar with both your habitual movement and bias, and then also non-habitual movement bias. And you'll learn to learn to incorporate the non-habitual patterns more and more during the day. And as you start to apply it and incorporate that pattern, new pattern, into your daily posture and daily movement, and then you're going to improve your posture. And then the changes that you make through that retraining are going to last for a long time, as opposed to you're trying to correct something, that something feels tight and you're trying to forcefully correct it. But then the nervous system really hasn't learned that patterns, and then it reverts back to the same patterns. So while you can correct it and you can think about it and you do it, but then as soon as you go back to your automatic activities, and then your posture reverts back to what it was before, right? And that's the difference. If you want to improve your posture, you can grab your free posture transformation guide at the link below. Check out these videos, and if you like this video, and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe and share with your friends. Comment below how helpful you found this video was. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Happy mindful movement. Bye-bye.